Swedish police have accused criminals of hijacking riots in several cities across the country. The protests began in some places after an activist announced that he would exercise his constitutional right to free speech by burning copies of the Qur'an. Dozens of police officers were injured, as well as 14 bystanders, as demonstrations spread from city to city. More than 40 people were arrested. Well, for more on that story, we can speak to our reporter now, Per Bergfors Nyberg, who is in Stockholm. Per, good to see you. There have been reports of these clashes in Sweden since Thursday. So put this into context for us. How frequent, how common is such an occurrence in Sweden? And what are the central issues here?
Well, basically, Helena, this is something that's extremely rare. I mean, police officers have said over these last couple of days that they've never seen something like these kind of clashes that they've seen over these last couple of days. And you're talking about the central issues there. I mean, it's easy to draw the conclusion that this would be something behind, this sort of clash between Rasmus Paludan, this Swedish-Danish politician, wanting to burn the Quran, and then people being very offended by it. However, today we heard from the Swedish police saying, well, honestly, these are individuals who are connected to criminal gangs in Sweden. Because we've heard over these last few days, people have said, please don't fall for it. Don't go out and protest just because you have this radical politician wanting to cause a stir-up, wanting to cause riots. Well, in fact, these young individuals who went out, police are saying, well, they're heavily suspecting that there are criminal gangs behind it and that there are also some foreign influences behind all this, that they've seen that police officers were even targeted. We've seen police vehicles being set on fire, police vehicles being hijacked, driven around town, and they're saying that there's a big sort of plan behind all this of trying to target Swedish police. Now, Swedish Prime Minister Magdalena Andersson, she was calling these horrible scenes. She was also talking about Rasmus Paludan, about his awful hate message. But she has said, and police have also reiterated the same thing, that they will hunt these people down and they will arrest them and they will have to serve their sentence.
Well, talking about the claims from that radical politician who you just mentioned there, the organising activist at the centre of this, him saying that he wants to burn a Quran. What do freedom of speech, free speech laws allow in Sweden?
Well, you might think that is sort of the limit where you won't be allowed to do it. Well, however, actually, he has a constitutional right to do just that. He's done it before. He did it a couple of years ago. There was one event happening in Malmo back in 2020 where we did see a couple of riots. Nothing on this scale, though. However, basically, the law says you can do these things as long as it's not a crime and as long as there's no threat to public order and public safety. In fact, there were a few of those demonstrations or manifestations from his side that were not allowed in certain regions of Sweden, where the police said basically, no, you're threatening public safety too much by doing this, so we're not going to allow you to do your burning of the Quran. In fact, he only went ahead with only about half of the ones that he was allowed to do. And on the other half, he just didn't show up, or he just didn't do what he set out to do. But as you were talking about there in your question, basically free speech in Sweden does allow these kind of actions. But of course, if it's a crime, you're going to be stopped. And if you're a threat to public safety, you will also be stopped. Now, Rasmus Paludan has said that he will be back in a week's time to try to cause more riots in Sweden. Well, he says he wants to burn the Quran, and obviously he wants people to react to it. But again, the message from some civil organizations in Sweden are, don't fall for it. Stay at home instead. Don't go for his sort of attempt at causing riots in Sweden.